thing for writing, engaging people in writing, not just the student themselves, but their paraprofessional. I happen to either be working with paraprofessionals that are side by side in children's homes or their parents. So here's an example of an emergent writer who's using the alphabet that's in his communication system. This is Mason. Mason does partner assisted scanning. Mason has, I think in this video, he's 10. He has Pitt-Hopkins syndrome. He is always on the move. So you're always going to see him rocking, and you need to understand this. Do not assume that this is a yes and a no. He has 3 different ways to give you communicative responses other than just his body, since his body for him needs to kind of be in motion all the time. So I think, the considerations for our students with significant challenges, we're taking in a lot of things to make this moment happen.
Still, yes, one of those. Hurry up.
Oh, Mason, I don't know. You're building a good one. Something's wrong. Uncomfortable. Food and drink.
Hurry up. Is that what you're saying? Hurry up? Are you saying hurry up?
Should we be hurried up so you can get some food?
Yeah, 51A.
There you go. There, Mommy found your letters.
There we go. Look, there's your letters.
And then what Miss Kelly's going to do is switch over somewhere. Something's wrong. Uncomfortable.
Are you saying hurry up?
Should we be hurried? There, it lets me pause finally. Mason uses, because he also has cortical vision impairment, he uses a partner-assisted scanning pod book. Not all my students have pod. It just happens to be these 2 kids. I have kids that use Touch Chat with Word Power and Lamp Words for Life and Proloco to Go, but just kind of giving you on the more significant range, because we're looking at access systems that have built-in multimodalities. So that's one of the things in assistive technology to expect. Not everybody's going to communicate. Not everybody's going to read. Not everybody's going to write in the same way on every day. So we'll get forward to the writing part here. Hurried up so you can get some food. There, Mommy found your letters.
There we go. Look, there's your letters.
And then what Miss Kelly's going to do is switch over to something where I'm going to type all the letters that you pick.
Ooh.
Oh.
Oh, look here, Mace. Look what Kelly's got.
Oh, they need to be bigger.
Very good.
Yes, you are. Yes. We're going to look at our letters.
Are we going to spell something?
You're going to write like we did before?
All right. So we'll start scanning and see what letters you pick to write about your topic.
We're going to write
action.
about looking. Actions, look. Okay, are you ready? Things you like to look at. Okay, ready? A, B, C, D, E. One of those. No. F, G, H, I, J. One of those.
And with Mason, it's a timing thing. So you go through the column, give him access to that column. If he wants something from there, you'll see he will either use his voice to call out or he will hit the book. That constant motion is not a yes or no for him. We'll get you back there. All right.
You ready? Things you like to look at. Okay, ready? A, B, C, D, E, one of those. No. F, G, H, I, J, one of those.
Mhm.
K, L, M, N, O, one of those. P, Q, R, S, T, one of those. Oh, was that a yes? Yes.
Oh.
Okay, great. You chose P, Q, R, S, T. All right, ready? P. Yes. P. Our first letter.
Right.
P. 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 P.
And then he goes on to spell in the upper right-hand corner of this slide is this final slide where he spelled the word pan. He was very focused on eating. This was at the end. This was like right before dinner time. And so his mom had modeled something, had done the word yummy as a model. And then this was his turn. And so then he gave us the word pan. So I think that, just that expectation is huge. The other thing in our schools, and I used to teach resource in elementary and resource in high school. You need to expect that your students will get access to the library and all the great things that are going on in the library. That we don't just bypass library time because whatever, but making sure that they get physical access into the library and to books that they can choose, right? Visual access to what's going on to the library, accommodations for hearing, whether it's amplification systems or people that are signing while the librarian is doing story time, and making sure that in your library, you've got a variety of materials to read. And we start here, and then I work with families to look at what's going on in your neighborhood library, what's happening there, because this is a bigger picture for literacy. And one of the reasons that why do we teach kids to read? So that they can choose materials that they want to read for their own leisure, what they want to read so that they can learn, and the things that they want to be able to write. So then think about what's that end game? Well, it isn't just about the alphabet and saying the names and the sounds. It's about getting access to materials. I had mentioned earlier too that one of the big resources that I use a lot is, the framework, the UDL framework, and I don't need to go through that here because there's a whole initiative in Wisconsin that you can learn about all these pieces, as well as go to the link for CASH that they have materials that you can go through at your own pace. But I think about this as I think about literacy and students across the learning span. Some of the things that we look for that are out there, it's about engaging our students through audiobooks, through tactile books, and the kinds of things that are out there. There's a lot of interest in 3D printing. So there's people that are doing 3D printing with tactile images, and those types of materials. Look for things that already exist. I think too often we get in our assistive technology groove of I've got to make everything myself. But things like Unite for Literacy have books that are already, read aloud. As well as probably what we should have you do here in chat is share your favorite resources for electronic books. So whether it's places like Tar Heel Reader or, Starfall, what are some of the resources that you use so we can capture those and add that to the output of this presentation? Because like I said, there was no way that I could do all of the areas of this within, our time. I want you to think about engaging all kids from early on, just like you are engaging for any of you that have babies in your lives, young children in your lives. When do you start engaging them with the materials of literacy? Here's a video from my colleague, Donna McNair, who again works with children that have vision impairments. This is Ethan, who's now a high schooler. But when he was barely 1 year old, using a Mountbatten Brailler, playing with it, mark making with the writing tool of his future. This is it's been reformed now in the last 10 years. It looks a little bit different, and there are other tools you can use as well. But just think about how early do you get kids into writing and making marks on paper? It doesn't have to be that Ethan has to write his name.
A little bit. You're doing good, Ethan.
In the background, you hear Ethan's
Yeah.
brother
Done, Dottie?
and his mom.
You go get your sandals on and go play in the bed.
Oh,
You see him sealing the items, the braille dots that he's making. So just like children experiment with crayons and pencils and markers and glow draw boards, experimenting with the things that make braille.
Yeah. Can you take your head out, honey? There you go. Can you put some buttons?
Donna talks about turning on touch thinking with children early on that are going to be using tactile as a part of their receptive system. So a part of that receptive literacy channel is getting you used to tactile. And she wants them using the tools that they will be reading from. There's a whole world of craft braille out there, making braille from, I don't know, cotton balls and making braille from tennis balls. That doesn't get braille underneath your finger. That's where you need to see it. That's where you need to feel it. And so she exposes her very young children to braille learning. I've done a whole session on just scribbling with Donna that you can see for free on YouTube. So just do a search if you're looking for that. I can make sure I put that into the links as well. But that whole engagement piece is about building curiosity for visual learning, for looking to learn, for being independent, choosing your own books, and that the people around you have high expectations for you to build literacy skills. And children start to feel that, right? And I know that that can be a scary place for educators because you don't know what the end might be for some students of how far can they go down this literacy path. But you won't go anywhere unless you get off the first base, right? Like you're not going to get anywhere unless you start and jump in. And I want to thank people for adding things like Readtopia, Playaways, Learning Ally, Epic, Bookshare, books, all those kinds of resources where you can get books that you can put your efforts into the teaching and learning, and your efforts don't have to be in text conversion, like maybe some of us had to do in the 80s, right? So like, don't go backwards, jump forward, go to the bigger bowl. And don't accept when people say, well, that's the way we've always done it. Or I don't think that this kid's going to be able to, because how do you know? Like, do you really know? No, you don't. And if you're sitting there saying you do, I don't want my child as your teacher. Like I want people who have high expectations to be teaching my students. I am very picky about what crew gets added to my virtual students. And the expectation piece is really huge of what we're looking for to teach kids who have really significant challenges. Look to some of those free tools that are out there. I'll take you back here to the CAST website. Clusive is really set up so that you can import electronic files from Bookshare and Learning Ally and other resources, those that you get from the book companies. But then you can also store them and create bookshelves for your students. UDL Book Builder allows you to take a book apart and look at it from the different aspects of engagement, multiple means of representation, multiple means of expression. And then one of the newer tools that I'm getting familiar with is Corgi, where I think many of us are looking for good tools that are like inspiration, that build vocabulary maps and semantic maps and story maps. And so Corgi's one of those tools that it's got a lot of flexibility, especially when it comes to having the screens read for those, because that can get really tricky when you have things around the screen and then people need that output of the screen being read in all the different bubbles and the blocks. And Corgi's set up so that screen readers interact with it in a systematic way. I wish we had time to play with all of these. A couple people, were nodding when I mentioned Tar Heel Reader. I mean, that tool's been around now for, yikes, I don't even know how long, 2003, maybe? If you've seen the version Shared Reader, it puts communication symbols, whether it's PCS symbols or symbol stick symbols, at the bottom, and they're working with lesson picks to do that within lesson picks as well, where some of the very popular books that we read and we reread become a part of that shared reading experience to engage students at those emergent and early levels. There's a great resource from SETC for a YouTube video that shows you how to use these tools and how to make your own and put your own books in them. So that's a quick YouTube video that you can watch. And then I can't name everything in an hour. So, what are the different kinds of things that put your effort into using different tools, low tech and high tech? You can probably look at this list and add to it as well. So I try to look at tools that go across different platforms. So if I'm looking like something that's going to speak as I write, like Quillsoft, that I can use in lots of different avenues. What are those tools that, it doesn't matter that it's only going to work on one thing, but if the family has something else at home, that we can use the same strategy, the same tool, just on a different operating platform.